My life changed when I met that guy. His name is Khoi Chim, and he started an organization in Cambodia called Cambodia Cares. Tim and his wife, very small organization, and they are dedicated to bringing education to the poorest of poor in Cambodia, which, as you know, is a pretty poor country. So we're talking about really poor people, people that live in places like this. I was fortunate enough in my family to go and work with Khoi and his wife to help build a school there and help fund that school, so they had a place with a roof over their head to actually teach these kids. Now, when I say the poorest of the poor, one thing you have to understand is that we're talking about really kind of the poorest people in the world that Khoi is helping to educate, and he educates adults as well as children. Now, that's my son there. We were walking through this slum. The people that live here, I don't know how well you can see that, but the people that live here are not the poorest of the poor. This is kind of a little iron tin or a tin shed. They at least have a roof over their head. If they're kind of wealthy, they may live with a cow inside this shed. The poorest of the poor actually live underneath here, right? And so for anybody that's had the opportunity to go to a slum like this, it's a life-changing experience. We kind of expected that it would be. By the end of the week, I got up the courage to ask Khoi, how do people end up here, right? What do these people do? Are they all on drugs? Do they have some kind of abuse? Why do they have to live like this? Can't they work? Isn't there a government program? Isn't there something? And he said, Mr. Peak, no, you don't understand. These people do work. And I said, they work? What do they do? And he walked me over to the edge of the slum, and he pointed across this marsh to a factory about a mile away. And he said, most people work really hard. They work 40 to 60 hours a week over there. And I said, what in God's name could these people be doing, working 40 hours a week in a factory for a company that has them living like this, which is the worst conditions I've ever seen? And he said, they make products for the U.S. defense industry. And at that moment, my life changed. So at that moment, I knew I was going to spend the rest of my life focusing on trying to eradicate a world that supports that. So Goodwell's mission is pretty simple. It's to eradicate the worst behavior in business globally. Big effort, but it's really, really pretty simple in hopes of making a better world. What issues are we tackling? Just small ones. The worst behavior in global business generally has to do with labor, but it is more extensive than that. So poverty level wages, that was the issue that I was seeing firsthand there. In addition to child labor, it's about 168 million children that have to work on a daily basis rather than go to school. Forced labor, this is one that I didn't even know about when I was standing there. There are almost 40 million people in modern day slavery today that work in our economic system. Unsafe working conditions, we've all read about people dying at work. There are hundreds of thousands of people that die every year at work. Wage discrimination based on gender, race, sexual orientation, or religion is widespread, even right here in this country. Environmental degradation, we know all about that from Leif's, or at least a portion of that from Leif's presentation. Excessive executive pay, which increases or exacerbates inequality in the world, and inadequate corporate giving. And I've got lots of details on all this, but I won't go into it. So there are a lot of people working on those issues. Those issues are massive, massive, massive. And there are hundreds, if not thousands, of NGOs, nonprofits, and organizations trying to solve this problem. So what in the hell am I doing starting something here in Boise, Idaho, and why do I think I can change this system? Well, my idea is different than what most of the world is doing today. I want to use the exact system that has created and exacerbated these issues to to solve the problem, and that's the free market. I'm not a huge believer in the government's ability to solve problems. Our own government, I think you can all look at the existing election cycle to see how good a job we do at collaborating. Trying to get the governments of the world to work together to solve these problems is an effort that I want no part of. So I'm a big believer, though, in the free market. And I think that every single time that a consumer goes to make a decision, a purchase decision, we're sending a vote. So billions of times a day, we go to market and we vote for behavior. We vote for the behavior of the company that we are buying a product or a service from, right? The problem is we don't only vote for the behavior of that company, we vote for the behavior of their entire supply chain, all the way down, which reaches all the way down now in a globalized world to the most environmentally and human sensitive areas of the world. Which is why it's kind of easy if you want to support good, sort of kind of easy to just buy something that's made and produced locally, right? Because you can kind of interact with that person or that business and get a sense for what they stand for. That's the way commerce used to work 250 years ago. In a globalized world, we're so far disconnected from the consequences of our decision that we cannot see it. It's completely opaque to us. So what we have done is we have developed a solution that is intended to make it very easy for you to vote your values every time you spend your dollars. And that system is a certification system. And the world does not need another certification system, believe me. It's the last thing that I wanted to do. I wanted to start a technology solution to this because that's what I do and that's what I know. It won't work. We have to make this dead simple. It has to be as simple as that. You have to be able to see a label, have a sticker on a window, know that you're buying from a company that is certified. For those of you that didn't see the little label show up. So any consumer, any conscious consumer, somebody that thinks about this will tell you it is virtually impossible to know that you are buying from a good company. Virtually impossible. Even if that company has gone through a certification process, no certifications deal with the supply chain. Goodwell does. So we have created something that is universal. It applies to any size company, in any industry, in any geography. It is transparent so that you can see it and understand it as a very lay consumer. It consists of 13 metrics. It's really, really easy. Those metrics all characterize those bad behaviors that we saw. There's a threshold for each metric. In order for a company to be Goodwell certified, they've got to pass all 13 metrics and be independently audited that they met that threshold every year. It's that simple. And the idea is not that these companies are the best actors in the world. They're not doing things perfectly. They're not doing things well. All they're doing is certifying that they're not contributing to the worst behavior in the world. That's it. These standards are easy to meet. We don't use slaves. That's pretty easy, right? We don't use children. Pretty easy again. So we've made those thresholds very, very easy to achieve and easy to audit and easy for consumers to understand. And when you vote your values, if we did this in mass, we'd end up with a world that looked a lot more like that on the left than the one that I saw on the right. Whoop. So, how are we doing this? We are in the process of recruiting 1 million consumers to be the voice of Goodwell. The free market isn't going to change on its own. There are a lot of good companies out there doing great things, but the free market doesn't change on its own. So we're recruiting 1 million consumers to be the voice of Goodwell. And we're going to basically use that voice and what I estimate to be about $50 billion in purchasing power to go have real conversations with business, to have them adopt our standards of decency, which are really hard to argue, and they're on our website. So you can take a look at them there. So my ask of you guys again is, will you join us to help achieve this goal? Now, it's $35. That's basically what we're asking, is that as a founding member, we're asking for $35 from you to help fund the organization, create an endowment. It's a $35 million endowment. We operate the business off of the interest of that endowment. And that allows us to make sure that one thing happens. We remain completely independent and unbiased by the influences that tend to corrupt over time. So we're not going to raise capital from wealthy individuals, which we can do. I know a lot of them, and I have a lot of interest, and I have a lot of founding members already that could give a lot more money than their $35. But we don't want to do that. We don't want to have any external influence that in any way degrades our mission. So, chance of success for this is absolutely minuscule, right? I recognize that. We're trying to change one of the most powerful systems in the world, which is the global economy and how that works. I recognize that. However, last year in the US, we spent about $260 billion on Powerball, which is a chance, a 1 in 209 million chance to improve your own life. So if our chances are anywhere near north of that, 1 in 209 million, just infinitesimal, I'm asking for $35 for the chance to improve the lives of billions around the world. Okay, thank you. Questions?
I know you have started having conversations already that you're probably a little north of that 1 in 200 million. Who are the larger, better known organizations you've talked to who have actually taken you seriously?
So it's a good question, and you're right, Norris. We've had some amazing conversations. The strategy behind Goodwell, again, is consumers first. Without having a consumer voice and having consumers change, nothing is going to change. I recognize that. So we're very, very focused on getting the founding members. But at the same time, we're trying to get feedback from business on, like, let's say we did have 1 million people. Would that be interesting to you? Are these metrics achievable? What's right and wrong with the way that we've structured the program? So I've had some fascinating conversations. We talked to the Chief Sustainability Officer at Walmart, which you might say, ooh, Walmart, they don't sound like they're a sustainable play, but they are exactly the type of business that we would want to get Goodwell certified, because the impact that they would have would be phenomenal. So one of the metrics that we measure is the percentage of your direct supply chain which is Goodwell certified. And there's a curve, basically, that you have to adopt over time, so that 10 years from the date that you start certification process, 100% of your direct supply chain has to be Goodwell certified. That creates this cascading effect. One company, Walmart, they have 3,000 suppliers. So typical supply chain these days is anywhere between 5 and 12 levels deep. So let's just assume that it's 5 levels deep, right? Walmart would then impact 2.8 million businesses by getting Goodwell certified. So that one company would have massive systemic change. So they're great. On the flip side of that, you've got kind of the pinnacle of sustainability, which is Patagonia, who's adopted this so deeply into their culture that it's what they think about when they base every decision in the company on it. And one of the reasons why I started this, I talked to their director of sustainability, you never know this, last week, and I think that she's going to join our advisory board. So we've talked to nonprofits, the Fair Trade USA, we're a member of 1% for the Planet, who is another fantastic nonprofit organization. I've had dozens of conversations with both corporate America, the nonprofit side, and hundreds of consumers. So it's been across the board. We've got really good traction. We now have founding members in, I want to say, 30 some odd states as of yesterday, and 6 countries. Yesterday we picked up Greenland. Now, I think there's only like 7 people that live in Greenland. And we have one of them. So if we had that percentage globally, we'd easily achieve our 1 million founding members.
How do you get the consumer, the average Joe guy to go, I care about that label on my shirt or jacket or whatever?
Yeah, and that's an absolutely fabulous question. I think that the key and the reason we're starting with 1 million members, we hope to have this be the ubiquitous label for decency, basically, globally. I think the average person does care. I think that we live in a world where we have blissful ignorance, right? When you walk into H&M and you buy a 2-pack of t-shirts for $7, the logical person can probably put together that I can't get this material, have it stitched together, have it shipped from Bangladesh to the Boise Town Square Mall, right? Pay a living wage along the way, not do environmental harm, and so forth. But you don't want to know that, right? And we've created a world where our blissful ignorance allows us to spend all this money in these transactions, in these votes, where you don't know, right? It's not in front of you saying, hey, you're supporting child labor, and therefore you choose to live in our blissful ignorance and make the transaction anyway, right? And so if we can create awareness, that's the key, right? And that's why that label, we believe, is the key to making this entire system change. If you're presented with one label, one product with the label and one without, now you have to make a conscious decision at that point of purchase. And that becomes a lot harder, because I believe in the goodness of people. I believe we want to do the right thing, but when it's easy to do the wrong thing, we're pretty self-interested, and we're going to do what's in our own best interest, and that may just be buying the cheapest thing. Or we buy on brand, price, and quality, and customer service. Those are our 4 metrics that we buy on today, not whether they use child or slave labor. All of our phones, and I have one, are produced with either slave labor or with really, really dangerous labor. There are artisanal mines in the DRC, called the Republic of Congo, that are just about the only place in the world where you can get one of the minerals that's needed for this phone. Microsoft made $15 billion in profit last year, says we don't have the resources to be able to get the minerals ourselves, or to know that we're not using slave labor. I find that a little bit hard to believe. I think they do have the resources, but we as consumers don't care. We'll buy it anyway. And I'm evidence of that. I'm not perfect.
Question, Rich. Do you think bad companies will knock off this label? How do you defend that?
That's a great question. So we are the clearinghouse. So the audit process clears through Goodwell. It's a third-party audit. We don't do the audit. Again, we'll remain completely independent. So third-party audit, but it clears through Goodwell. So yeah, Chinese knockoff of a given product with this label on it. How do we defend against that? The same way that Nike does. You know, it's not a perfect solution, but it has to come, or it comes down to awareness again, being notified that these things are happening. It's going to happen in the world. There's very, very difficult to solve that. But yeah, good point.
Elaine?
So I was blessed to grow up in a socially conscious, sustainable community that only bought local, 2 hours from Seattle. So honestly, I get what you're saying, that's the world I live in. But I'm just curious. I mean, there are all kinds of studies and white papers on the socially conscious buyer.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're only going, I have to believe through my heart that there are at least 1 million socially conscious buyers in the U.S. They probably are younger than we are.
Mm-hmm. Maybe, but go ahead.
So
I think there's a lot of guilt in the boomer generation.
well, yeah, it is a little Jewish guilt, Catholic guilt,
Yeah.
work. But honestly, I think that I have seen in my own family that people will pay more for a socially conscious. And I think
No
that
doubt.
the next generation, much younger than us, unless they have an incredible guilt, are probably a little bit more aware.
They are, absolutely, and it's just too hard. I can tell you, I have another really quick but really good story. When we went on this trip, this was part of a 10-month trip I was fortunate enough to take around the world with my family. I wanted to bring one pair of shoes. I wanted a pair of shoes that I could run in, that I could go out to dinner in, that I could walk in, and I've been on this path for about 6 years, so this path of awareness and consumer conscious buying and so forth. And so I went to go find these shoes. Well, the requirement for the shoe itself was hard, right? Because finding a shoe that you can run in, that you can wear out, and is casual, that you can dress up and all that is like impossible. So that was hard, but finding it from a